Hi, it's Melissa Hoklopacki talking about functional gut health, what I talk about all the time. That's my expertise. It's what I love to do, helping people poop better. Today, I want to talk about the root causes of constipation, and I want to talk about it because no one else does. When you go to the doctor, like I did for constipation, I was told, take some Miralax, eat some more fiber, how's your water intake? That was it, and then handed a prescription. Didn't really work for me, and I'm sure it's not working for you either, or you wouldn't be here. So what are the 8 root causes of constipation? That's what we're going to dig into in this series. And this is just a little introduction for you to let you know what's coming. So what are the 8 root causes of constipation? We're going to start with the very first one, which is nutrition. Remember that what you are putting in determines what comes out, always. So if you are constipated and you think you have the right diet, I can almost guarantee that you don't. Simple as that. And that just takes a little nutritional counseling. That's a big part of my Gut Reset 123 program. We talk a lot about making dietary changes. The essential ones. We talk about motility promoting foods. We talk about probiotic foods. We talk about what to eat, what not to eat, and exactly how to do that. So nutrition is a big part of your bowel motility and your constipation picture. That's almost a problem for everybody. Number 2 is hydration. People think they're well hydrated, and I guarantee that if you start measuring the amount of water you're drinking, I like to use a water bottle. I have a 32-ounce water bottle. I try to get between 2 and 3 bottles of water down a day, which means between, 32 ounces, 64 and 96 ounces of water. I rarely make the 96, though. I'll tell you, sometimes I do when I'm working out. However, the kind of water you're drinking matters. I drink distilled water for one reason, because it's just pure water. There's no radioactive elements. There's no environmental chemicals from stream runoff, PFOA, PFAS, so many contaminants in regular drinking water. And to be honest, a carbon filter doesn't cut it. Your refrigerator filter isn't doing the job, nor is your Brita countertop filter. So I talk a lot about water and the importance of what kind of water that we're drinking, and also about using electrolytes. Those minerals help the water to get inside the cell. It's one thing to push water through your system, but if it's not getting into the cell and really hydrating and staying there, and instead it's whooshing right through you. I have a lot of clients who come to me saying, I wake up 3 times in the middle of the night to pee. And these are, women. No prostate issues from men, etc. And when they start employing an electrolyte strategy with their drinking water, a lot of that stops. You shouldn't be drinking lots of water late at night if you're having problems peeing in the middle of the night, but also if you're using electrolytes, you're going to hang on to that water. So we talk a lot about hydration and how to create some new healthy habits around hydration, etc. So that is number 2. So you've got nutrition and hydration, which you probably figured are pretty big factors in nutrition. It's not something new to you. But did you know that your liver and gallbladder function have a very big effect on your digestion? Your gallbladder, your liver's creating the bile that your gallbladder is storing, and it's released into your intestines, right, when you are digesting. It helps you get that job done. I see a lot of people with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, right? There's fatty liver disease from drinking a lot of alcohol, but did you know that a lot of kids that are obese actually have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? And that's really from eating all these processed foods, drinking soda, eating takeout food, right, that are just loaded with seed oils and things that our bodies do not recognize as food. It's a big problem. So I want you to take that into account. And we do use some great herbs that improve the quality of your bile production, stimulate that a little bit for you, and help you to clean up your liver. So if that is a factor for people, and we do that through questioning and looking at symptomatology, but understanding what part your liver and gallbladder is playing in your slow motility is another really important part of the workup. The next thing I'd like you to consider if you're dealing with constipation is I don't have one word for this, and it kind of keeps growing larger, but it's anxiety, stress management, circadian rhythm, and sleep. Everything that has to do with that. What does your wake sleep cycle look like? Do you have a bedtime routine? Are you sleeping well at night? In the morning when you wake up, is there a mini routine that will help you to produce a good bowel movement? There is. I have it. And that's another part of our Gut Reset 123 program, or the work that I do with my private clients. But I'll tell you why it's so important, and I'll give you an example so that you can understand this. If you wake up in the morning and you set your alarm, let's say 6:30, and that alarm goes off, and maybe you're bold enough to get out of bed on the first time, or maybe you're hitting that snooze button once or twice. But by the time you jump out of bed, you're now under the clock. You need to take a shower, brush your teeth, wash your face, dry your hair, put your makeup on, put your clothes on, feed the dog, pack your water bottle, pack anything that you wanted to take out of the house for the day with you, and get out of the house by 7:12 so that you get on the highway and you're not late for work. If that sounds like you, I can guarantee that stress, sleep, anxiety, and circadian rhythm is a big part of your constipation, especially if you're one of those people that says, if I don't poop in the morning, I don't go because I can't poop at work. Is that you? I have a lot of clients like that. So we need to start, excuse me, by fixing the bedtime routine. We fix the bedtime routine so that we can wake up a little bit earlier and work on a morning routine. Um, so that's a big part of it. Stress and anxiety and cortisol levels. I think every client comes to me saying, I think my cortisol levels are out of whack. And not always. But stress really does impact the body and really can shut down the bowels. Next is medications. And this might seem simple, but I feel like tons of people miss it. People will come to me and they're on a slew of medications. And when I do a little research and digging, I find that a lot of those medications are causing constipation. It is right there in the side effects on the website. This product may cause constipation. You need to have a talk with your doctor about the medications that you're on and if there is a potential to change medications that have less side effects affecting your GI system. Not always possible, but can happen. And if you're fighting an uphill battle, if you're on, for instance, even something like a pain medication, people who are on low dose medications for pain, we know inherently that shuts down the bowels, right? They hand you your pain medication with a stool softener or a laxative most often. So it's number five, sorry. So we've got nutrition, water, liver, sleep anxiety, circadian rhythm, right? And we've got medications. And I added in there because I don't want you to miss it. So if you are struggling with constipation and you're on a bunch of medicines, that might be the reason. And it might be as simple as getting off the medications and getting your bowel back into some regularity. Um, the next one is low minerals, especially magnesium. We are all deficient. And I say that with some level of certainty. I have been tested for magnesium levels and I take magnesium daily and I have for the last couple of years. And sometimes I still test deficient. And my doctor says your body's just using it as fast as you put it in. So she told me if you're dosing once a day, which I was dosing at night, she said split it into two and dose in the morning at night. Maybe it'll be used by your system more regularly. So that's the strategy that I employed there. But not just magnesium. We are deficient in many minerals. There was a big campaign for one a day multivitamin. Get your vitamins. Don't miss your vitamins. And there still is to an extent with people drinking things like green juices, right? Or meal substitutions in a shake that has all your daily vitamins. But when was the last time somebody talked about minerals? Because I find with my clients that when we start replacing minerals and we get those mineral levels back to a decent level, people feel like $1,000,000. You didn't even know how easy it was to remineralize yourself, right? Or how desperately your body was calling for minerals. 300 enzymatic processes depend on magnesium alone. Not any of the other guys, right? So imagine if you're low in everything, how your body is just not working well. We like to use magnesium citrate because it has a direct action on the bowels. It's called an osmotic laxative because it pulls water into the bowels, creating a better bowel movement, which is another reason you should be really well hydrated if you're working on constipation. So low minerals is another root cause of constipation. I replace minerals in all of my clients, and especially do some work with magnesium. Number 7 is mold and parasites, and I put them together because a lot of times they are there together. Not You won't always have an exposure to mold when you have parasites, but if you've got mold, you almost always have parasites, and both of those guys will shut down your bowels. Remember these long strongyloides and roundworms that we find that are the ones that are inhabiting the GI tract? They live in the tissues. They don't live in the tube of the intestines, which is why if you have a colonoscopy and you ask your doctor, did you see any worms? He'll laugh at you because they don't live there, right? So we need to use medications and herbs that draw the parasites out and kill them so we can get them out in the stool. Very effective. I find a lot of my clients with chronic constipation have a big problem with digestive parasites. And once we move them out, things clear up beautifully. And I haven't, this is going to sound surprising, but when I do a complete parasite cleanse with people, I have yet to see someone who hasn't passed something that's visible. And remember, if you've ever heard, only 30% of what we pass is visible to the eye. 70% we never even see. So mold and parasites should be evaluated if you are dealing with constipation. When I ask people to check their house for mold, I will give you my very simple mold test, which is go to your bathroom, lift the back plate off the toilet. You know, if something goes wrong with the toilet, you lift that big back plate up, and look inside and smell inside. If it smells like mildew, if it looks like mold, if you see black, if you see something growing, you've got a mold problem in your air, right? Because mold is an air spore situation that will start growing on surfaces where there's water, which is why the toilet tank is a great place to look. If you've got a mold problem, you have a big problem in your house, and you really need to treat the mold before you can treat anything else. We start with remediation, which means removing the mold. Simply spraying it or fogging it does not work. It needs to be physically removed or cut out. And then once you are living in a mold-free environment, we get the mold out of your body. So mold and parasites, a big one, a very missed cause of constipation, but something that I check all my clients for and work to correct if it's there. Okay, the last root cause of constipation is gut bugs and imbalanced flora. This is one of my specialties because I love to run the GI map test for my clients. The GI map test gives us so much information about what's happening in the gut today. It looks for things like H. pylori. It looks for all the bad gut bugs, but not only that, it looks for the good gut bugs. So it tells us, it gives us a range, and it says we should be here with gut bug A, but if we're down here on a sliding scale, it needs to be replaced. It makes it easier to replace your probiotics because you're not guessing. You know how many probiotics are on the market. It's dizzying with the number of choices. Have you ever looked at the back of the bottle? That's where we start. So we make sure that depending on what's missing in your gut, we are teaming you up with the right probiotic, number one, which helps because all of those probiotics in the gut have specific functions. Some of them are helping with bowel motility. Some of them are helping with eating away at the lining of the gut so that it replaces itself. That's Akkermansia muciniphila, which a lot of my clients are very low in. It'll look for H. pylori. It'll tell me if you are gluten sensitive. It'll tell me how your hormones are being processed. It'll talk about the level of inflammation in your body, how your digestive enzymes are working. Do you have enough juice, enough fire in the belly? If your digestive system isn't getting it done, if your food's not being processed well in the stomach, it's going to slow everything down as it tries to break itself down in your intestines. Right? That's not supposed to be happening there, right? So sometimes a little more digestive juice is needed. And I love that test. You can order it yourself for $425. You don't need anyone to write off on it or read it for you. I developed a whole educational portal called digestivediscovery.com to give people access to this amazing test and vital information for improving your overall health. Because as Hippocrates said, all health begins in the gut. And it's very true. All of your mental, emotional issues start in your gut because your neurotransmitters are made in your gut. Your immune system starts in your gut. We see all of that with this test. So digestivediscovery.com is for you if you want to run a gut test on yourself and rule out all those bad bugs, some of them causing autoimmune diseases, right? And take a look at what you're missing. So that is the story on the 8 root causes of constipation. I'll go over them one more time for you. It's nutrition, hydration, liver gallbladder function, anxiety, sleep, circadian rhythm, right? All in that pile together. Medications that might be shutting your bowels down, low minerals, especially magnesium, imbalanced flora in the gut or gut bugs that we learn about through the test, and mold and parasites. So I'm going to break it down even further week over week. I'm going to take each one and give you just a little bit more information so that you can start to think about whether that root cause is affecting your constipation and put together a plan for healing yourself, right? Because that's what we're doing here. We're all just trying to heal ourselves and feel better every day. So thank you for joining me today. If you're interested, I have lots of YouTube videos here about reading the GI map test for digestive discovery. Happy to share those with you. Those are live client case studies, so you can check those out. So stick around. I'll be back with lots more information about gut health.